What happens when a self-made CEO walks into one of his own buildings and watches a veteran get mocked to his face? Brennan James built his company from the trunk of a '96 Ford, selling refurbished watches online. 17 stores later, he had a full staff, a warehouse team, and a growing national brand. But over the last year, something had started to feel off. Customer reviews dipped. A couple of handwritten letters came in from older customers saying they felt talked down to at a few stores. Then an email from a retired Marine said he left a store humiliated and disrespected. Brennan had read that one twice. He didn't trust filtered reports anymore. Too many layers between him and the people on the ground. So he made a decision. He'd visit Store 12, the one mentioned in the Marine's email, alone and undercover. No camera crew. No PR stunt, just him, posing as a customer, an older man interested in buying a timepiece for his grandson's graduation. He'd wear a graying wig, aged makeup, and a slightly hunched posture. The disguise came from a studio friend in LA who owed him a favor. No one in the store had ever met him in person. They'd only seen his face in a few online articles, and he looked very different now. Store 12 was in a strip mall in Bakersfield, California. It was a clean area, decent foot traffic, but not flashy. Brennan parked across the lot and walked up slowly, his bad hip adding to the illusion. The security guard at the store entrance didn't even glance up from his phone. Inside, a young woman behind the counter glanced over and gave a polite nod, but no one came over. Brennan wandered a bit, looking at the glass cases, letting time pass. A couple more customers walked in. Still no help. Then the door opened behind him. An older man stepped in, late 60s maybe. Stiff posture, clean shave. Wearing a simple polo tucked into pressed jeans, he had that military neatness about him. He walked up to the security guard, tall guy, maybe 30, buzzcut, name tag said Caleb. The man said, "Hey there, son, I'm looking for a gift watch. My grandson's graduating next week. He's going to the Navy." Caleb looked him over and gave a short laugh. "You sure you can afford anything in here, old-timer?" The old man blinked. "Excuse me." "You heard me," Caleb said, arms crossed. "We don't do senior discounts on Rolexes if that's what you're after." Brennan stiffened. The veteran looked down, clearly thrown. "I'm not here for a discount. I came because someone recommended this place." Caleb rolled his eyes. "Well, maybe they were messing with you." The man turned to walk out. Brennan saw the way he wiped his eyes as he stepped into the sunlight. Brennan took a breath. He turned and walked out behind him, keeping his distance. He watched the man shuffle to his car and sit there for a minute, gripping the steering wheel. Then he drove off. Brennan stood still for a long time. That night he didn't sleep much. He'd seen bad service before. But this was something else. There was a line you didn't cross. You never humiliated someone for their age, their service, or their pride. The next morning, Brennan shaved his beard, styled his hair, and put on the black button-down his assistant had pressed for him. He walked through the same parking lot, no disguise now. He looked like exactly who he was. The owner, he pushed open the doors to Store 12. Caleb was at the front, laughing with another employee. Brennan walked up, direct and calm. "Is your store manager in?" Caleb blinked. She's in the back." "Who can I say is?" "My name is Brennan James," he said, loud enough for the other staff to hear. "I own this company, and I was in this store yesterday." You could have heard a pin drop. The girl behind the counter, Whitney, her name tag said, looked like she might faint. Caleb's face turned red, then white. "I came in wearing a disguise," Brennan continued. "I watched a customer, an older man, get mocked by you. He said his grandson was joining the Navy. You laughed in his face." Caleb opened his mouth. "I didn't, you did. I saw it, and I want your manager." Now, Whitney backed into the stockroom like she'd seen a ghost. A few seconds later, a woman in her mid-30s rushed out, dark blazer, clipboard in hand. "Hi, I'm Marissa, store manager. Mr. James, this is unexpected." "Yeah," Brennan said, "it is." He turned to Caleb. "I want to speak to you in the back, right now." They walked into the office. The door shut behind them. Caleb sat down, trying to steady his hands. Brennan didn't sit. Before I say anything else, I want to hear your side. Now. Caleb looked down. I didn't know who he was. I thought he was messing around. Some people come in here, they don't buy, they just waste time. He told you why he was here. He told you about his grandson, and you talked down to him. Caleb's voice cracked. I didn't mean it like that. I was just joking. It wasn't a joke to him, Brennan said. Or to me. He paused. I built this company to be better than the rest. We sell watches, yes, but we sell respect too. People give these to mark important moments, milestones. That man came here to honor someone and we turned him away. Caleb looked like he wanted to disappear. I'm sorry, I messed up. You did, and I can't let it slide. Caleb stood. You're firing me, Brennan nodded once. Effective immediately. I'll have your last check sent by the end of the week. Caleb didn't argue, he just walked out. Brennan stayed in the office, breathing hard. His hands were shaking, he wasn't happy. He wasn't proud, but this was leadership. You don't let poison stay in the bottle. He stepped back into the main room. Whitney was helping a customer now, hands a little shaky. Marissa was on the phone, probably with HR. Brennan looked around the room, then said, I'll be back later today. We're going to have a full staff meeting. Things are going to change. Then he stepped outside into the sunlight, already dialing a number on his phone. He had one more thing to do before lunch. He was going to find that veteran. The morning heat was already rising off the pavement when Brennan stepped back into his SUV and pulled away from store 12. He drove without music, windows up, phone buzzing silently in the tray beside him. He didn't answer. Not yet. He stopped at a small coffee shop 2 blocks over. It was quiet, just a couple of retired men sitting near the window with newspapers folded at their knees. Brennan ordered a black coffee and sat near the back, scrolling through his inbox until he found the original email. The man's name was Gordon Ellison. The email signature listed no phone number, but Brennan noticed the mailing address in the footer. It matched a house in a modest neighborhood about 15 minutes away. He didn't hesitate. When he pulled up outside, the front lawn was neatly trimmed. An American flag hung still on the porch, and a rusted white truck sat in the driveway. Brennan got out, adjusted his cuffs, and approached the door. He knocked twice. Nothing. He waited, then knocked again, louder this time. After a moment, the door opened. Gordon stood there wearing a gray t-shirt and jeans. His eyes narrowed slightly, cautious. Brennan spoke first. I'm Brennan James. I run the company you visited yesterday. Gordon didn't respond right away. He studied Brennan's face like he wasn't sure if this was a joke. I read your email, Brennan continued, and I was there. I watched what happened. Gordon leaned against the doorframe. Then you saw me get treated like I didn't belong. I did, Brennan said, and I'm here to tell you that it wasn't acceptable. That employee no longer works for us. Gordon looked away, jaw tightening. I didn't send that email to get anyone fired. I know, Brennan said, but accountability matters, and so does respect. Gordon glanced down at Brennan's outstretched hand, then shook it briefly. You want to come in or something? He asked. Brennan nodded once. If you're all right with it. Inside, the house was simple and orderly. A few framed photos lined a shelf. Family gatherings, a younger Gordon in uniform, a boy in a graduation cap. Brennan followed him into the kitchen where a pot of coffee sat untouched. You want some? Gordon asked. I've got one already, Brennan said, holding up the paper cup. But thank you. Gordon sat across from him at the table. You didn't have to come here, he said after a pause. I did, Brennan said. Because this company's mine, and if something's broken, it's my responsibility to fix it, not just from behind a desk. Gordon looked at him, not suspicious, just tired. I've been around long enough to know when a company sends a form letter and calls it closure. You showing up here, that's different, but I still don't know what you want from me. I want to know what that store used to be like, Brennan said. Before it left someone like you feeling like an outsider. Gordon leaned back. When my wife passed, I started walking more, kept me moving. I'd stop by that strip once a week. Sometimes I'd just browse, talk to the folks behind the counter. There was a girl there named Lee. She treated everyone the same, whether you had a wallet full of cards or just came to chat. Brennan hadn't heard that name in any recent reports. "What happened to her?" he asked. "Last I heard, she left about 4 months ago. Said she couldn't keep up with the new manager's volume over values mindset. Her words." Brennan made a mental note. Gordon stood. "Look, I'm not looking to be anyone's charity case. I've had worse days than that one, but it stuck with me because I thought your company was different. It used to be." Brennan stood too. "I want it to be again. Thank you for taking the time." As he left the house, Brennan's phone buzzed again. This time he answered. "Get me Lee's employee file," he told his assistant. "And everything we have on Store 12's staffing turnover in the last 6 months." He didn't go back to headquarters. Instead, he headed straight to the warehouse. The distribution center was tucked into an industrial park 10 miles from the store. It was the heart of the operation where inventory was checked, packed, and sent out across the country. Brennan hadn't set foot in it in over a year. When he stepped onto the floor, the noise hit him first. Forklifts whirring, boxes sliding, the beeping of scanners. It was efficient but too quiet between people. No one was talking unless they had to. He approached a young man at the packing line. "You get many returns from Store 12, the guy looked up, confused. I don't know." "Depends on the week." "Why?" Brennan introduced himself. The guy's eyes widened. I'm Nate. I only started 4 months ago. You like it here?" Nate hesitated. "It's steady, but we're short-staffed. Our shift lost 2 people last month and they didn't replace them." "Why not?" Manager says corporate froze new hires, said we had to learn to adapt. Brennan's brow furrowed. "What's your manager's name?" "Derek. He's usually upstairs." Brennan didn't wait. He climbed the stairs to the office level and found Derek looking over a spreadsheet. "Got a second?" Derek turned, eyes widening when he recognized him. "Mr. James, of course. I wasn't expecting, I know. I've been getting a lot of surprises myself lately." Derek gestured to a chair. Brennan stayed standing. "I just spoke to Nate. He says your shift is down 2 people. "That's correct," Derek said carefully. "And you didn't put in to replace them?" "I submitted a request, but when I didn't hear back, I figured it was a hold." "I've been managing with what we have." "By overloading your staff," Brennan said. "That's not managing, that's surviving." Derek opened his mouth, but Brennan cut him off. "I want a full staffing report by end of day, and I want every backlogged hire request reopened and reviewed personally by HR. No more assumptions." Derek nodded quickly. Brennan stepped out of the office and looked down at the warehouse floor. People moved like clockwork, but there was no energy, no spark, just motion. That afternoon, Brennan returned to Store 12. The staff was gathered near the back wall, folding chairs set up hastily. A few looked nervous, others just confused. He stepped in front of them. "Some of you know who I am. For those who don't, I'm the guy who started this company with a single case of watches and no savings. I believed then what I still believe now, that people matter more than product." He looked around the room. "I went undercover yesterday, and I saw things I didn't like. But I also saw people who showed up, worked hard, and tried to keep this place running without enough support." He turned to Marissa. "You've been running this store under pressure. I want to hear from you. No filters." Marissa hesitated, then spoke. "We lost 2 associates in the last quarter. 1 quit, 1 transferred. I put in requests, but I haven't had a response in weeks. Inventory's been backed up. I've been covering more shifts myself." "Why didn't you escalate?" "I did, twice. No one called back." Brennan nodded. "That changes now. You'll get the staff you need. And if you don't, you call me directly." He turned to the rest of the group. "We're going to rebuild this place, not just the staffing or the shelves, the culture. That starts with accountability. The man you saw yesterday deserved better, and so do all of you." He stepped back. The room was quiet. Then Whitney raised her hand slowly. "Can I ask something?" "Of course." "What happens next? I mean, is this just a one-time thing?" Brennan looked around the room. "No. From now on, every store gets a quarterly visit from me or someone I trust to report back without spin." Not to catch people, to understand them, he paused. And starting tomorrow, this store gets a new assistant manager. Her name is Lee. Marissa's eyes widened, then softened. I thought she left the company, she said. She did, Brennan said, but I called her. She's coming back because she believes in what this store used to be, and I think you all do too. As he left the store that evening, Brennan didn't feel finished, not even close, but for the first time in months he felt like he was moving in the right direction. At 6:30 the next morning, Brennan stood outside store 12 again, leaning against the hood of his car. The street was still quiet, the strip mall only half lit. The storefront glowed faintly behind its security grate. He wasn't there to make a scene. He just wanted to see who showed up early, who walked in with tired eyes but still showed up. Marissa arrived first, just after 6:45. Her car was an older sedan with a cracked passenger mirror. She stepped out quickly, holding a takeaway coffee and a file folder pressed to her chest. She didn't notice Brennan until she was at the door. "You're early," she said, surprised. "So are you. I always am. Easier to think before the day starts." She unlocked the door without fumbling, walked straight to the back without unnecessary chatter. Brennan followed her in, watching the rhythm of someone who'd clearly done this 100 times. Inside, the lights flickered on one row at a time. The store felt different without customers, quieter but also heavier somehow. Like the air hadn't been cleared in a while. By 7:15, 2 more staff had trickled in. A tall young man named Louis who handled the repair desk, and a middle-aged woman named Dana who handled appointments. Lee wasn't due until 8. Brennan had asked her to wait until the store was open to make her return. He walked the floor slowly as Louis organized display trays. The young man glanced up only once, then focused back on his work. "You've been here how long?" Brennan asked. 7 months, Louis said, not looking up. "Transferred from store 6. You asked to transfer?" "No." "They asked me to." "Why?" Louis hesitated. His hands slowed but didn't stop. "Store 6 had a manager who didn't like when you asked questions. I asked a lot of them." Brennan said nothing for a moment. "You like it here?" Louis shrugged. "I do the job. I don't get in the way." "That's not what I asked." Louis looked at him directly now. "I used to care more, then I watched good people get ignored. Now I just keep my head down." Brennan nodded once, stayed a few seconds longer, then moved on. At 8 sharp, Lee stepped through the doors. Her hair was shorter than in her old ID photo, a neat bob now, and she wore a gray blouse with a thin navy vest. She walked with quiet confidence, but her eyes scanned the room like she was still recalibrating. Marissa greeted her first. They exchanged a brief hug, professional, not performative, and Brennan watched from a distance. He didn't need to insert himself yet. Lee would find her rhythm, or she wouldn't. But the way the staff looked at her, not surprised, not confused, just relieved, told him enough. By 10, the store had its usual flow. A couple of customers browsed, a watch fitting was being done at the back table, and Dana handled a phone call with practiced ease. Brennan sat in the office, reviewing the data file HR had sent the night before. It was worse than he thought. Store 12 had the highest turnover rate in the region over the past year. 5 departures, 3 of them within a single quarter. None had been flagged as serious concerns. No exit interviews had been escalated. All were stamped with voluntary resignation and filed away, he called HR. "Pull every exit interview for Store 12 for the last 12 months. I want transcripts, not summaries, and I want to know who signed off on them without review." The voice on the other end hesitated. "That'll take a little time. You've got until noon." He hung up and looked out through the glass. Lee was talking to Louis now, pointing to the repair station. They weren't smiling, but there was clarity in their body language, something practical being exchanged. Brennan stood and stepped out to the floor just as a man in his 50s entered the store. He wore a brown jacket, jeans, and carried a folded brochure in his hand. He looked around uncertainly, then approached Dana. "I'm trying to find something for my daughter's promotion." "She made lieutenant." Dana smiled gently. "Congratulations, that's a huge step." "Yeah, the man said, voice low. She's the first in the family to go into the service. Dana walked with him to the case. Brennan didn't interfere, he just watched. The man didn't ask for a discount. He didn't hint at a sob story, he just wanted something meaningful. Dana showed him a brushed steel chronograph with a navy dial. He bought it without hesitation. After he left, Brennan approached Dana. "You handled that well." She looked surprised. "It's not hard to be decent, I know. But it's easy to forget when the pressure piles up." Dana gave a small nod. "This job used to feel like more than just sales. Then we started rushing everything. Less time with each person, more focus on numbers than names. How long have you been here?" 4 years. "Last 2 have felt like 10. He didn't have an answer to that, but he made a note. At noon, HR sent the transcripts. Brennan read every word from the back office. One employee cited lack of communication as the reason for leaving. Another listed unapproachable management. A third wrote simply, "I don't feel like anyone here listens." None of those phrases had made it into the summaries. Brennan set the file down, walked out of the office, and asked Marissa to gather the staff again. They met near the back, behind the service counter. No chairs this time, just standing shoulder to shoulder like a team that hadn't been treated like one in a long while. "I've read your exit interviews," Brennan said. "All of them, the ones no one followed up on." "That ends now." No one spoke, but he saw the shift in their eyes. They were listening. "You've been doing too much with too little, working without support, losing good people and not being told why. That's not leadership, that's failure, my failure." He paused, letting the weight sit for a beat. "I'm not here to promise overnight fixes, but I am here to make sure this place becomes somewhere worth staying again. That means better processes, more listening, and a clear line between you and me, no filters." Lewis folded his arms, not in defiance but in thought. "What if it doesn't work?" "Then I want to hear that too," Brennan said, "and I'll fix it again. As many times as it takes." An older man from inventory, Malcolm, who'd been silent until now, spoke up. "Why start here?" "Why now?" "Because I watched someone walk out of this store ashamed," Brennan said, "and I realized I didn't know my own company anymore." The silence held. Then Lee stepped forward. "I came back because I believed this place could be what it once was. I still do, but belief doesn't fix things." "Work does." Brennan nodded to her. "That's why you're here." He dismissed them after that. It wasn't a rousing speech. It wasn't supposed to be. He didn't want applause. He wanted traction. That afternoon, he stayed out of sight, sat near the back, watched how people moved. How Lee coached Dana gently through a new digital inventory system. How Marissa called the regional supplier directly instead of waiting for a callback. How Lewis stayed 10 minutes after his shift to finish a repair cleanly instead of rushing it. At 5:30, Brennan stepped out into the parking lot. The sun had dipped low behind the strip, casting long shadows across the sidewalk. He didn't drive off immediately. He sat in the car, engine silent, watching the storefront through the windshield. It was still just a building. But something inside it had shifted, not completely, not enough. But it was moving. The following week, Brennan returned to store 12, not with cameras or fanfare, but with a clipboard, a laptop, and 3 names. Lee, Marissa, and Lewis had each submitted proposals for operational improvements, and Brennan had spent the last 2 nights reviewing them line by line. He arrived at 9 sharp, this time dressed down in slacks and a polo. No assistant trailing behind him, no driver outside. The store had just opened. Only 2 customers browsed quietly. Dana gave him a quick nod from behind the counter, then returned to a phone call. There was a rhythm here now, not perfect, but steadier than what he'd seen before. Lee met him in the back room, where folding chairs had been replaced with a modest table and a whiteboard someone had wheeled in from the stockroom. A few notes were scribbled across it in green marker staff targets, delivery delays, and a new training schedule that Lee had started drafting. It wasn't corporate issued. She'd written it herself. "Appreciate you coming in early," Brennan said, setting the clipboard on the table. "I figured you'd want to get through the rough parts first," she said. "No point sugarcoating anything." That's why I brought this, he replied, tapping the folder. Lewis suggested a change to the repair intake system, said the current one's costing time. Lee nodded. He's right. Right now, customers wait for us to send items off-site even for minor work. We could do half of it here if we had the right tools. You have the experience, I do, and so does Lewis. We both handled in-store repairs at our previous locations. Brennan looked over the list. You'd need a pressure tester, a bench microscope, a new ultrasonic cleaner, and 2 locking drawers for parts. Plus an extra 20 minutes per shift for paperwork, she added. We're not rushing anything through. If we do this, it's got to be clean and trackable, he nodded. Authorized. I'll have procurement handle it today. She seemed surprised by how quickly he responded, but she didn't question it. Instead, she pulled out a folded sheet of paper from her back pocket and unfolded it across the table. This is the second thing, she said. Scheduling flexibility. He scanned it. It wasn't a request for shorter hours or extended breaks, just a rotation model that gave each full-time employee at least 1 weekend off a month, and shifted closing duties to alternate across the team. Marissa's been closing 5 nights a week, Lee said. She hasn't said anything, but I asked. She rearranged her own schedule to avoid overloading the new hires. She's been carrying more than she should, Brennan said. When's the last time she took a personal day? February. He didn't need to ask why. It was the same reason too many managers across the company kept pushing through, because they thought someone else's burden was heavier. Brennan made a note. I'll speak with her. In the meantime, implement this rotation. If anyone pushes back, send them my way. As he stepped out of the back office, he noticed Lewis near the front register, quietly talking with a teenage customer trying on an entry-level timepiece. Brennan lingered by the sunglasses rack, listening. This clasp's a bit stiff now, Lewis said, but it'll loosen up with wear. There's a 90-day fit service free. You bring it back, we adjust it, no charge. The boy nodded, eyes wide with something Brennan recognized, pride. It was the first real watch he'd ever bought. Lewis rang him up, tucked the box gently into a bag, and handed it over like it was something more than just stainless steel and gears. Brennan waited until the customer left before approaching. That intake system you proposed, Brennan said. We're greenlighting it, Lewis blinked. Seriously, you earned it, but I'll need you and Lee to document everything: processes, tools, results. If it works, we scale it. Lewis rubbed the back of his neck. I didn't think anyone would actually read that report. You took the time to write it. That told me more than the words did. Lewis looked down briefly, then back up. I've got a few other ideas, not all perfect, but things I've seen work. Good, Brennan said. Hold on to them. We'll go through them next week. He turned to leave but paused. You good with sticking around here? I know you were transferred without much notice, Lewis shrugged. It wasn't ideal, but this place feels like it's worth fixing now. That helps. Back in the office, Brennan found Marissa sitting at the desk, flicking through vendor invoices. She looked up, surprised. I wasn't expecting you back here. Wanted to ask why you haven't taken a day off since winter. She gave a tired smile. Didn't seem like the right time. We were short and there was too much to clean up. Still is, Brennan said. But that's not a reason to burn out. He handed her a small envelope from his pocket. She opened it and found a handwritten voucher, 3 paid days, to be used any time in the next 2 months, no questions asked. This isn't a policy, he said. It's recognition. For stepping up when no one noticed, now I'm noticing. She didn't say anything right away. She folded the paper with care and tucked it into her planner. I'll take one next Friday, she said, but only if I can trust the place won't collapse without me. You've got Lee now, Brennan said. And soon a few more hires. I heard we're finally filling the gaps. You are. First interviews start Monday. I've got HR fast tracking your approvals. She leaned back in her chair. Feels like things are finally moving the right way. They are, Brennan said. But we're not done. He stepped out again, made a slow loop around the store. The lighting hadn't changed. The displays still needed polishing. There were still smudges on the glass, but the energy had shifted. There was a moment near the front where he stopped. The veteran's face Gordon, it came back to him. Not the moment of humiliation, the one after. The stillness in that truck, the quiet anger in the way the man gripped the steering wheel, that moment had stayed with him. He pulled out his phone and scrolled to his saved contacts. He dialed. "Gordon Ellison," the voice answered on the second ring. "Brennan James, I wanted to let you know something." There was a pause. "I'm listening. I went back to the store. We made changes. The man who disrespected you is gone, the staff's been rebuilt, and the team. They're the reason I believe in this company again." "Good to hear," Gordon said, "but I'm not sure I'll be walking through those doors again." "I understand," Brennan said, "but I'd like you to consider something else. We're launching a new advisory program. I want a few outside voices to help shape how we train our staff, real experiences, not just manuals. People who have seen how things can go wrong and what respect really looks like." Gordon didn't answer right away. "You want me to tell your people how to be decent? I want you to tell them what dignity looks like from someone who's earned it." There was a long pause. "You know where to find me," Gordon said. He hung up without a goodbye. Brennan slipped the phone back into his pocket, then turned toward the door. Outside, the sun had risen higher across the strip mall. The sidewalk shimmered faintly. A delivery truck idled near the curb, waiting to unload. Brennan didn't watch it long. He took one last look through the glass, Lee coaching a new part timer on the register, Lewis adjusting a display, Marisser reviewing a schedule. No one looked up. They didn't need to. They weren't performing for him anymore. They were building something for themselves. And that was exactly what he'd hoped for.